Welcome, everybody, to this episode of the Tee 'em Up podcast. I'm joined here, as always, by my co-host and my partner, Jarrett Huff. Jarrett, rough week for the Bulls. COVID protocol. How's it all going over there, man?
I got to say, it's a rough week and it keeps getting rougher, especially with the latest news. As of the last 25 minutes at the time we're recording this, it was just announced by Woj that Zach LaVine is going down with COVID protocol.
Ooh.
Followed right after that by Casey Johnson reporting that Troy Brown Jr. is also going down. So
Man.
it's not a good week right now. Not a good, I guess Sunday is a start to a week. I usually view Sundays still the end of the week. So however you view it, it's a good start or a bad start or bad end, either way.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it has not been a good week for the Bulls, but it has not been a good season for the Indiana Pacers. We want to lead off with them and what's going on in Indiana, man. They haven't gotten off to a great start. Currently sitting at 12-16, which is good enough for 13th place in the Eastern Conference. So reports have now indicated that they will be open to trading pretty much anybody on their roster. So anybody can come and make an offer. So, Jarrett, what do you make of these reports? And would Indiana be making a mistake to trade away these guys, or what's going on here?
I think it's what Indiana needs to do at this point right now. If you look at the roster, it's not a team that's going to contend for a championship. They don't have a true star player that's going to carry them in the playoffs. Domantas Sabonis is a fantastic player, but he's not, in my opinion, a true number one option, at least not yet, and probably not ever. He'd be a great complementary piece to a contender, no doubt. He would be great on so many teams, and I really want to see a team that's contending pick him up. Caris LeVert is another great scoring option that you could have off the bench or in your starting lineup. Malcolm Brogdon's a really solid point guard. Like, they have a lot of players that would benefit a lot of other teams, but together they don't make really a whole team. I mean, the past couple years after, like, when they had Victor Oladipo, still they were an interesting team, but now that Oladipo is gone, they really have nothing to contend with. And at the same time, Rick Carlisle's first year as a head coach, he's not really playing Sabonis like the kind of player or like how you would expect him to be played. So I think it's in a point where you got a new head coach, build a team in his image, because Carlisle could be there for the long haul. And I think that's just what the team needs to do, just rebuild.
Yeah, I agree. I hope everybody gets traded as soon as possible. I think so many times these teams will just hold on to these players that have some sort of talent, and they just kind of hope that they'll draft the next superstar with whatever pick that they have coming up, and then they'll have these players to put around them. But it's not working, and we've gotten to the point with Indiana where I think it's the smart decision. Obviously, I don't think their fans would agree. I think it's a smart decision to blow this up, start from scratch, salvage what you can, and get what draft picks you can, because you have a lot of talented guys in these rosters. Or this roster. You're not wrong. They're just not going anywhere. And the two guys I really wanted to focus on that you mentioned there, Domantas Sabonis is a great player. I mean, he's a former All-Star. He's a guy not really having the best year so far, but I mean, the dude's averaging 18 points, 12 rebounds, and 4 assists a game while shooting 58% from the field. Like, Domantas Sabonis, to me, and you kind of threw out that you love to see him traded to a playoff contender. And one thing that I kind of thought about, and I thought might be interesting for Sabonis, what about Golden State? What about Golden State for Sabonis? I know it's such a scary thought. Let's add another all-star to this team. But Domantas Sabonis for, let's say, like James Wiseman, Jonathan Kuminga, and maybe a pick. I think the Warriors say yes to that. I think the Warriors really like James Wiseman. Don't get me wrong. The guy is young, had a little bit of injury history, but Domantas Sabonis would fill a need for that team that almost makes them unstoppable at this point. I mean, you add Domantas Sabonis to this roster, I think they might already be the hands down favorite to win the championship this year, but I think they say yes to that. I don't know about you, but I think they say yes to that.
I can see a world where they say yes, and I can see a world where they say no. I think yes, in terms of they really want to shore up themselves as a title favorite today and contend for a championship today. And I also see them saying no because they still believe in Wiseman. They believe in Kuminga, who's shown great talent early on. Because I feel like the Warriors think with Kuminga, they potentially could have an asset that they can grow and develop playing alongside Curry and Klay Thompson that could kind of carry the torch once those two start to slow down, and hopefully can make them a still competitive team in the West for years beyond Curry and Klay. So I see both sides of that coin.
Yeah, I would love to see this happen. And the other one that's kind of interesting is Miles Turner. And Miles Turner is kind of a sneaky good player that a lot of people have not talked about in years previous because he plays for the Indiana Pacers, who don't get a lot of media coverage because let's face it, they have not been very good since those years with Lance Stevenson and Paul George when they were knocking on the door and just couldn't get past LeBron in the Eastern Conference. But Miles Turner, 13.7 rebounds, he's leading the league in blocks. He's got 2.7 blocks per game. So he's a defensive anchor. And one thing about Miles Turner, he's shooting almost 40% from the 3-point line this year. He's all of a sudden, when he came into the league, was this, more typical rebound, get a lot of boards, could put up 10 to 20 points a game and block, but he's becoming more of a stretch big where he can go out onto the 3-point line and stretch out that offense. But one thing that I was kind of looking for a trade partner for Turner because he kind of has such a unique talent. And one, I don't think it'll happen because it's not very often we see kind of stars get traded within the conference. But one team that could really use Miles Turner is Charlotte. Charlotte Hornets could really use Miles Turner. I kind of tried to put everything together. Maybe the Pacers get something like a Mason Plumlee, a PJ Washington, who's kind of that young guy that maybe they feel like they can mold a little bit, maybe a pick or two, but that's one trade partner I could possibly see them having. I know the Hornets would love to add him to that roster because the Hornets, what they really need is a big man down low that can defend because they are not a defensive driven team, and he would help as to anchor that defense. But another one that I would love to see happen, but I just don't think they have the guys, would the Lakers. The Lakers would love to have a guy like Miles Turner. It's almost impossible for it to possibly happen. They just don't have the guys to send out. I put like a DeAndre Jordan and Austin Reeves and maybe a Kendrick Nunn if the Indiana Pacers fell in love with either Reeves' potential or maybe Nunn's potential. But I just don't think they have what it takes. I know they would love to have Miles Turner, but they just don't have the assets to bring him and pry him from Indiana, man.
I could tell you with 100% certainty that Indiana's not doing that trade.
Oh, I know.
Because I feel like anyone the Lakers would send out would probably like retire before they even got to Indiana.
Especially DeAndre Jordan. Yeah. He's like, no, my career is cemented. I'm done with that.
Yeah, no. Sorry, Laker fans. You won't be seeing him in a Laker jersey anytime soon.
It's a dream, but they just don't have the assets, man. But yeah, I just think the Pacers, they need to actually put their money where their mouth is and actually pull the trigger on some of these trades sooner rather than later. I don't think they have to really wait till the trade deadline to get the best value that they can for these guys. I think these guys have proven over their careers the amount of talent that they have. I mean, Domantas Sabonis has been an all-star in this league. I mean, he's been in the Eastern Conference, but there's times where he looked like he was going to be the next guy to kind of carry that torch, and he's kind of taken a little step back, but he's still playing at a high caliber. So I think Indiana would be smart to make these trades, send out these guys, Karis LeVert, like you said, Malcolm Brogdon, see what they can get for those guys, and just start to build for the future. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, this season's proved that the East, you can no longer contend for a playoff spot with a mediocre roster.
Yeah, it's crazy. A couple of years ago, this roster would probably – it could be a second-round roster. I mean, it's a good team. But this year, it's just not going to happen. The East is just getting stronger and stronger. And, oh, man. So tough start so far for Indiana, and tough news for fans of the New Orleans Pelicans, man. Down in the Big Easy is Zion Williamson. He's reportedly suffered another setback in his recovery from foot surgery. He's now been shut down from all basketball activity. The big man has played a total 85 games over his first 2 years of his career. And Jarrett, what do you make of his latest news, and what does it mean for this young career?
Well, this is a very tricky situation in New Orleans right now. The franchise hasn't always been in the greatest position. I mean, we saw the Chris Paul years get squandered. We saw the Anthony Davis years get squandered. And now we're seeing this Zion situation really not even get off the ground floor. I mean, he barely played half the season his rookie year. He had a terrific campaign last year, and we haven't even seen him touch the court now this season. He put on a lot of weight this summer, which with his injury history is not a great thing. And I think it could be contributing to what's going on right now. I mean, these foot injuries, you have to be very careful with them. I mean, all your weight's you're on your feet all day, you're moving and stuff like that. These injuries take time to heal. And in Zion's physical condition, it's not great. I don't understand why this team hasn't focused more on his health, more on his diet, because he's their number one asset. He's basically the only hope for the future, keeping this franchise in New Orleans, in my opinion.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
And they're in a situation where he could be gone within the next 2 years because I honestly I don't think he wants to be there. I wouldn't be shocked if we see him in a Knicks jersey in a few seasons or something like that.
No, the Knicks, man.
It's just they have to figure out what to do because this guy could turn their franchise around or he could sink it.
Yeah.
And I don't want to see Zion turn into the next bust. I'm rooting for this guy. I don't want to see a Greg Oden situation where there's so much potential. It's clear in the present day, and he just can't stay on the floor, and that's what sinks his NBA career. Because I think we're starting to get close to that territory with this most recent news.
Yeah, I think because of the various injuries that we've seen so far from Zion, it's definitely something I'd be concerned about if I'm a Pelicans fan. I think the best thing for his development and his health is to be on the court as much as he possibly can. You mentioned a lot of people are concerned with the amount of weight, which there's been conflicting reports where they've seen some photos that weren't exactly looking the best, and then some photos where he looked really good and in shape. So it's kind of interesting, and no one really knows until we see him on the court, and that's kind of the struggle. But this has been such like a gut punching setback because it seemed like we were getting closer and closer to finally having him back on the court. And everybody wants to see he's become such a great player already at 21 years old. And I think we kind of forget that is when he's been on the court, he's been record setting. Like he's played 85 games in his career, which is not a lot, a little bit more than a complete season, but he's a 25.7 rebound, 3 assist guy who's shooting 60% from the field. Mm-hmm. Like that speaks for itself. Like, it's insane to be a 21-year-old player to average those numbers. And I think that's why it's so frustrating where we see these young guys that have injuries. We want to see them on the court, but they don't show this type of potential. Everyone wants Zion to be on the court because when he is, he's one of the best in the league. And he's 21. Like he was making an argument for some of the best, like it technically wasn't his rookie year, but some of the best numbers for people the age 20 in the history of the NBA. He was setting records. He was out there. His rebound totals were great. His shooting totals were great. And I mean, no one shoots 60% from the field as that young of a player, even if you're a big man. And I completely understand, that the best ability is availability, and he needs to be on the court to prove that these injuries are not going to define what his career is. But let's not understate the talent that we're dealing with here. I mean, he's probably the most, and I don't think anybody would argue, he's the most hyped rookie coming into the league since LeBron. Like easily. No one has been as hyped as this guy. And when he's on the court, he has lived up to that potential. He's lived up to what Zion Williamson is supposed to be in this league. And it's such a frustrating thing because fans across the league, like no one, I mean, there's the Pelicans do not have a huge fan base, but no one around the league is like, oh no, it's good that he's not on the court. Everyone wants to see Zion. Like Zion is big box office, ticket sales, all-star, MVP type caliber player, and everyone just wants to see him on the court. And I think that's why this one is so frustrating because I thought we all thought that we were getting closer to seeing him on the court again.
Yeah. I think if this Zion thing doesn't work out, honestly, I can see a world in where the New Orleans Pelicans franchise falls apart and probably gets shipped to Seattle if there isn't a franchise in Seattle come whenever that time is already.
Seattle or Vegas or wherever
Seattle,
the expansion
Seattle deserves it first.
They did. Well, they do.
I'm sticking up for the Sonics.
No, that's fine. I'm with that. No, but we will see expansions. We will. But yeah. Oh, there you go. Got to represent. Next great Seattle Supersonic, Zion Williamson. You heard it here first.
I like it. Nice ring on it.
Definitely. So going back over to the Eastern Conference. So we had a couple the Eastern Conference's best teams got a chance to play each other this week. The Bulls traveled down to Miami to take on the Heat. Home team walked away with a 118-92 victory. So Jarrett, us being fans of these two particular teams, we know a little bit more than the average fan. So what's your takeaway from the Bulls side of things on this game?
Well, for sure. I mean, even though the Bulls were missing more players, I think this definitely shows the gap in depth between the two teams, where I think Miami's bench is a lot better than Chicago's, especially on both sides of the ball. I mean, we saw guys like Dwayne Dedman go off. We've seen guys over the past few weeks like Gabe Vincent and what is it? Is it Cody Martin? Is he the one that's on the Heat?
Caleb.
Caleb,
yes.
Martin. Caleb had a big night against the Bucks a few nights ago. So the Heat team continues to show that its depth is there. We're on the Bulls side of things, even though last night they're missing 7 players, 6 due to COVID protocol. The only one that didn't have that listing was Pat Williams,
Mhm.
as he's out for most of the season with his wrist injury. But I have to say, just from the Bulls side of things, something the NBA has to step in, because this team should not be taking the floor any night coming up. There are, I believe, 8 available players, with Zach
Yeah.
LaVine and Troy Brown Jr. going down half an hour ago. I mean, this team is in an outbreak, which I don't understand how this is happening. Like, how every day for like the last 4 days, a player has been announced in protocols every single day. Like, how is this happening? The whole team's vaccinated. Several of the players now have booster shots. I don't understand why the NBA hasn't stepped in already. I don't understand how, like, how are these players getting exposed
Yeah.
consistently?
Well, and I mean, you want the protection, obviously, from the Chicago side, but then you got to think about the other teams that they're playing too. They're going out there
Exactly.
and playing these other teams on a nightly basis where they could, possibly, it's not their fault, but they could cause an outbreak with another team. And the next thing you know, you got, 3 teams in the Eastern Conference that have, like you said, 8 players on their roster.
Yeah. My best guess is, and this is just complete hearsay, I remember when we were playing that Philly series a few weeks back,
Mhm.
and Philly players kept going down. It was like Matisse Thybulle and then Embiid right after that series was over. And then Kobe White, I believe, went down not long after that. And ever since then, there's been like a string of injuries. I wonder if it's just getting passed from team to team or something like
Yeah.
that. But the Bulls are definitely, it's the red flag in the league. And I don't understand how this can, like, clearly there's an outbreak amongst the team. I think the Bulls need to be shut down until everyone is cleared, everyone's tested, everyone's healthy. Because A, you're not getting a great product on court.
No.
B, players are going to probably continue to go down with COVID and possibly spread it to other teams, because, like, clearly all these players that are healthy one night are not healthy the next. The NBA just needs to step in. This is ridiculous. This shouldn't be happening, and it's scary.
No. Yeah, I agree with you. And I was happy to see, obviously, Miami come away with the victory. But and I know everything that's going on the Bulls side of things, with COVID and things like that. But I was just to focus more on the Heat side, because that's obviously the side that I'm in the camp of. I was happy to see that, they're going through some of the same struggles, obviously not to the extent of the Bulls, but a lot of theirs is injury based. And I felt really good after this game. Anytime Miami is able to go out there without Jimmy Butler, without Bam Adebayo, and walk away with a victory, to me, it's going to be noteworthy, because those are your main two, guys that are they're going to be helping carry you to victory. I think this recent stretch has more than just, to me, justified the acquisition of Kyle Lowry.
Oh,
He's
of course.
it's been insane. He has his ability to keep this team afloat with those guys going down. It would have been so easy for Miami to kind of just fall back down into the depths of the Eastern Conference, right around that, 7 to, heck, even like 12 range, where all those guys are kind of sitting around the 500. They've kind of taken a step back, obviously, with missing some of those people. But Kyle Lowry has really stepped up, and it hasn't been the numbers he's been putting up. And that's never really been about Kyle Lowry's career. He's just a leader. He knows how to get things done, knows how to win the game. Like we talked about in the last podcast with Chris Paul, he knows at the end of the game, he knows how to slow it down, handle the ball, and win a game. And Kyle Lowry has really been showing that. So I just want to give 2 shout outs from that game to the Miami Heat. The first one you already mentioned was, how about the big game from Dwayne Dedmon? I was very happy to see that from him. That's exactly how you play, man. That was huge, Dwayne. I think, games like he had on Saturday is why I was so excited that Miami re-signed him to be Adebayo's backup. I think games like this is what he's capable of. 20 points, 12 rebounds in 20 minutes. For us, that is huge. That is huge when he's able to put up those type of numbers. And lastly, welcome back, Duncan Robinson. I'm so happy that you're back on the Miami Heat. I don't know where you've been for the last few weeks, but games like that is what we need from Duncan, man. He's really been struggling to knock down the three, which is what he does. He's Duncan Robinson. He's showing signs he's getting back to form. His team showed with the comments and everything that they've been saying, they have not lost confidence in this guy. They know what he's capable of, and they know that shooters go through slumps. That's okay. That happens. But for him to break out a team high 26 points in only 27 minutes, he was 5 for 9 on 3-pointers. He looked good. He looked like he was back to normal. This was just, it was, and pairing that with the win over Milwaukee that I definitely did not see coming. I'm not going to lie. I turned on that game halfway through and I was like, oh my God, we have a chance to win this game.
It was a good
Overall,
game.
it was a good week for Miami to stay alive with a lot of these key players, get a win over the Bucks, get a win over the Bulls, and show that even without Jimmy Butler, even without Bam Adebayo, we're still not a team that you can look past.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I mean, and I wanted to like circle a little bit back around to that Kyle Lowry point. I think Miami having those two alphas and Jimmy Butler and Kyle Lowry and personalities where if one's not there that night, Kyle Lowry is going to pick up the slack
Oh, yeah.
with on-court leadership. And I think that pairing, perfect.
Oh, yeah. And all those role players that they're not going to have an easy night if Jimmy Butler's not there because Kyle Lowry's still there. And he wants to win. He's not going to go out there and try to lose a game. He knows he wants another championship. He got that championship in Toronto, and he thinks he has the opportunity in Miami. He's going to do everything he can to get the team there. So, now it was a good week for Miami. Not so good of a week there for Chicago, dealing with a lot of COVID protocols. But
we'll have better days.
We will have better days. But so a lot of you, if you haven't been paying attention, which you probably have, but Steph Curry is insane. Just going to start with that. But Steph Curry is about to set another 3-point record. And this is kind of the big one. He's currently 7 threes away from passing Ray Allen as the all-time leader in 3-pointers made. So, Jarrett, what would this record and what does this record mean for Curry's legacy?
Obviously, he's going to be at the top of the record books one day. Could we see another player pass him? Possibly someday. We don't know where if we're going to have another Steph Curry type player because this generation has essentially spawned from Curry's style of play. But it just reaffirms what I've been a big believer in for probably the last half decade, where Steph Curry is the best shooter in NBA history. I mean, and this record just affirms that. I don't think he needs this record to prove it at all. He could retire 1 3-pointer short of the record, and that statement stays the same, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. Curry is the best shooter in the history of the NBA, and what he's done cannot be understated. He's completely changed the league, and this record is just going to add just another notch under his belt that everybody knew eventually he was going to pass. It was just a matter of when, not if. So he's going to absolutely shatter this record. He's going to do it with about 500 less career games than Ray Allen ever had. He already broke it as far as the playoff 3-pointer records factored in. You know, it's crazy. Like you mentioned, younger guys are just they're coming into the league now where they're shooting such a high volume of threes. We see guys like Luka Doncic, Trae Young, who are coming in where they have the green light from the get-go, and they're very talented players who have been practicing since they were in middle school to shoot these threes after seeing guys like Steph Curry light it up from beyond the arc. So now it's about how high can Curry set the bar, and I think. You know, there was kind of some telling comments on Draymond Green's podcast a couple of days ago where he said that, you know, Curry's obviously going to break the record. He's going to set the bar as high as he possibly can. Then Draymond said about 5 to 6 years after that, it's going to get broken. And the reason he said that is because guys like Trae Young, who they come in, they're shooting, you know, 9 threes a game from their rookie season. Eventually, just the numbers are going to add up and they're going to pass Curry. But I was really hoping he would go off last night against the 76ers and knocked down 10 in the game against his brother. He obviously wasn't able to do that, but you know, he will break it here in the next few days. I believe their next game is on Monday. So it'll be the day that you guys are hearing this podcast, and he's still 7 away. So it's a very high chance that he hits 7 in that game. And if not, I'm sure he'll break it in the game after that. So just a matter of when, not if, for Curry.
Yeah. And I mean, going back to like these young players coming to the league with threes, I feel like every year some rookie breaks the record for most threes made in so many games. Like during Kobe White's rookie season, I don't know if you remember, he was like breaking that record like every other night. Where it's like whoever makes these arbitrary records like sets the bar, like first like 10 games into 20 to 30.
ESPN loves doing that though. Like you know, most points scored by a left-handed shooter who's wearing a headband and wears an arm sleeve on just one arm. It's like,
on a Tuesday with a blue moon.
Oh my! Just anything they can have to put up one of those graphics, man. They're the king at that. But
the Thaddeus Young will forever be my favorite.
What was that?
the Thaddeus Young graphic with Jordan, Bird, LeBron, and Magic, where like he's the only player across like 900 something games to average like 14, 5 and 5 and 2 or something like that. It was I'll find the graphic somewhere.
Oh my. So moving on here. It's not very often that we go through a week without talking somewhat about Ben Simmons, and this week is not going to be different, as we're going to be doing that again. So reports came out earlier this week that Damian Lillard has a desire to play with Ben Simmons on the Trailblazers. Other reports have stated that trade talks for Ben have picked up momentum throughout the league as well. So Jarrett, will anything come of this, or is this just more talk?
I mean, I feel like Ben Simmons has kind of been linked to the Trailblazers ever since the end of that series against the Hawks. But it's always been a question of what Portland's going to give up and what Daryl will accept. I mean, of course, every single year CJ McCollum is put into trade talks. I mean,
Or CJ.
He even made a joke about it on the Bill Simmons podcast. He's like, Bill, like every week you try to trade me. Like, what's going on, man? And I think, like, in all seriousness, CJ McCollum is the most likely trade piece this season. I think Portland's pretty committed to Damian Lillard, to where in the event that Ben Simmons were to come to Philly or were to come to Portland, it wouldn't be Damian Lillard going the other way. It would have to be some package attractive enough for Daryl Morey of CJ McCollum and some other pieces that hopefully in Portland's case wouldn't completely sink the franchise.
Mhm.
I love CJ and I love Dame together, but obviously this backcourt hasn't achieved what it should be achieving. And honestly, I think CJ McCollum would be a great piece for Philly. He's a combo guard that could play both the point and the shooting guard. He can get you buckets real quick, and I think he's definitely something that Philly could use in a playoff series, where we've seen in the past from Simmons, he's not going to be there for you offensively, whether it's getting points at the bucket or it's shooting from outside.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think we see him traded anytime soon. And the reason I see that is mainly just because the teams that he's been linked to in the Blazers and secondary, kind of the Celtics that we've kind of heard some mumblings on. The Blazers, in an ideal world, would want to get Ben Simmons and not give up CJ. I don't think that's a possibility. There's not a chance that Daryl Morey is gonna not get Damian Lillard and not get CJ McCollum. Obviously, their commitment to to Damian Lillard is more than their commitment to CJ McCollum. They think that he's a better player overall, which he is a better player overall, but CJ McCollum is still a great player in his own right. I agree with you that Philadelphia would be a good fit for CJ. I think he'd be a great number 2 as far as a scoring option beside Joel Embiid. I just don't see this happening. It's the Blazers I just don't think Morey is willing to give Simmons to the Blazers without getting Dame. Dame is box office. And that's what Morey wants. And when Morey has his mind set on something, he's not going to take less, in my mind. So I don't see anything happening very soon. I understand we're going to see the reports of this trade talk is heated up, and very well the next week I could be proven completely wrong. And I'm sure I'll put up a video of me going right here on this little rant talking about how it's not going to happen. And then it happens. But the other team that he's been linked to, the Celtics, just don't even get me started on the Celtics, man. They say they're going to trade for every superstar in the last 20 years. But when other teams come to the table, the negotiating table, and they ask for Marcus Smart, they say that that's too much and we can't give that up. So Boston Celtics, they go around and around and around. They never pull the trigger on anything. Just trust me on that. Boston Celtics are not trading for Ben Simmons. It's not going to happen. I'm sure a lot of their fans would be like, oh, no, this is the one. Okay, well, Anthony Davis was the one. Okay, well, hey, even back to Carmelo Anthony was the one. Like, sorry, Celtics, it's not happening. But one surprising team when I was kind of doing some research on this that I saw is the Dallas Mavericks have kind of slowly kind of gained a little bit of momentum in these talks. Luka mentioned that he wouldn't mind teaming up with Simmons. I don't know how great of a fit that would be, Ben Simmons and Luka, but I haven't looked too much into what the Mavericks would possibly have to offer. I know they don't have a lot of super young guys that have shown a lot of promise besides Luka, which they're not going to get rid of Luka, but it could be interesting if with Dallas quickly, if Mark Cuban kind of stepped in and decided like, hey, I want to make a move. We know he's made splashes in the past. So Dallas is a team to me to keep an eye on. I just don't think anything's going to happen here very quickly.
I feel like Dallas would be interesting. I feel like they're kind of a franchise that's kind of gone stale at the moment. They've really underwhelmed in free agency the last couple seasons. They haven't put a lot around Luka Doncic, and I feel like that would be a move that would essentially be like, all right, hey Luka, we're trying to commit to getting the team better. We're trying to shake things up and see what we can do. I don't know, like you said, if that's the right move for Dallas, but it
Yeah.
would definitely make them a little interesting.
Yeah, I just don't know what they would have to give up or what they even have available to give up. I haven't looked too much into it, but
Do
it's
you think
one.
that?
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. Do you think they'd want to take Kristaps? Because that's really
No.
their only asset.
Yeah, I don't think Daryl Morey takes Kristaps because I think he would look and say, "I have the better Kristaps. I have Joel Embiid." Where I know Kristaps is not a banger down low by any means. He's definitely more of a stretch, which he's more of a stretch four than he is a stretch five.
He came into the league playing before,
Yeah,
so
yeah. Which I mean, he's seven. What is he? 7'3" or something like that, playing the stretch four, which he's huge. But he's also shown obviously with his injuries. Which say what you want about Joel Embiid, he came into the league injured, but since then has been fairly healthy. Like over since that kind of second year, and he's been great. He's been one of the best players in the league. But I don't think Morey would want that. I think Morey's looking for more of the wing guard type of players that can go and get a bucket, which is more like a CJ McCollum, which obviously a Luka Doncic, but he's not getting Luka Doncic. I'll tell you that much. But that's just kind of how I fall
he'll
in there. I
try.
Neil, Morey will try without a doubt. But yeah, so not we always talk about Ben Simmons. That kind of leads us into our buy or sell segment is come to love. So it's very simple. We have a few statements here, and then we're going to list if we are buying or selling what I'm offering to you. So we'll just get right into the first one because it deals with our man Ben Simmons. Is Jared, are you buying or selling that Ben Simmons will be traded before the end of this NBA season?
I'm willing to buy this one. I feel like it's definitely a trade where a lot of people might expect it not to happen, but at the same time, you'll wake up one day, look at your phone in the morning, Bleacher Report has the little siren eye emoji
Yeah,
icons on
yeah.
their post, and Ben Simmons traded, and you're like, wow. And I feel like we get one of those trades every single year, and I think Ben Simmons is going to be that trade this season, so I'm buying that.
Yeah, I'm selling that right now. I'm keeping a close eye on it, though. I still think Morey is not willing to lower what he feels that Simmons' value is and bring back less than what he feels is going to be a good trade. But if the number of teams that are interested continue to rise like it has over this last week, where things have really caught fire and the momentum starts to rolling, I may be quickly buying this stock. But as of right now, where we're sitting, I'm selling this. I just don't think any of those teams are going to pull the trigger. So their second one here, Jared, are you buying or selling my favorite team here? Are you buying or selling? The Boston Celtics need to make some drastic changes to their roster.
I'm gonna sell that. It's their first new system in about 7 years. With their new head coach after Brad Stevens went to a front office role. I think they do need a piece or two, but I don't think they need to do anything drastic. If it's like trading away Jalen Brown or something like that. Um, I, f- I think this franchise can figure out how to get Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown to work together. They're two fantastic young pieces that could be a formidable duo for years in the Eastern Conference. So I think they should ride it out.
Yeah, I'm buying this 100%. The Celtics need to blow it up. I'm sorry. I will allow
Oh,
them.
blow it up.
Yep, blow it up. I will allow
Tatum
them.
too?
Nope. I will allow them to keep Jason Tatum. I think Jason Tatum is a great player and he's still young enough that all of his potential is still in front of him and you can build around him. Everybody else is on the table as far as I'm concerned. They need a breath of fresh air in this building. The Celtics, I know they pride themselves on being this, they're a legendary franchise and it's the history. And I get that, but you feel old. They feel old as the Boston Celtics. And you have to adapt. You have to grow to what the league has become. Jason Tatum is a star in this league. You can keep him, you can build around him, but you need to package some of these young guys. And one of those, I know, picks or two, trade them away. It's going to be okay to get Tatum some real help. Take a chance, take a risk, and maybe, just maybe, strike gold with a championship. Our third one here, Jared, is are you buying or selling that last year's Knicks team was just a one-hit wonder?
I'm selling that 100%. This Knicks team obviously is going through an awful stretch right now. They really don't know what to do with Kemba Walker. But at the same time, look where this Knicks team was around this point last year. They were, they were below 500, and then they made the Derrick Rose trade, and it essentially turned the team around overnight, and then all of a sudden they were in the playoffs against the Hawks. Um, Tom Thibodeau is a tough coach. I'm sure he's going to figure something out. And Julius Randle going through a tough stretch right now, but I've seen what this guy can do against teams this season, especially my Chicago Bulls, where I don't want him to have the ball in his hands within the last 2 minutes of a close game. The man terrifies me, and I'm sure he's going to figure it out. I'm sure he's going to get himself out of this slump, and we could see the Knicks back to kind of where they were early in the season, but they can't let this thing fall too far out of reach just because this Eastern Conference, like we all said, no time to be mediocre because the teams at the top are starting to pull away.
Yeah, I can't believe we're 0 for 3 in agreement here, man. I'm buying this right now. They just don't look good. Like last year, they were a physical team that really controlled and played their own pace on offense, and they locked down on the defense end, and I'm just not seeing it. I'm not seeing it so far this year. They almost look like they're kind of just going through the motions where they, last year it was like the Knicks are good again. It's exciting. The league is so happy to see them back. Tom Thibodeau is getting, his chance to run this team, and Julius Randle, everybody turned their back on him, and here he is. He's an all-star. And, I'm not feeling it this year, and I hate to say this because he's your guy, but Thibodeau in the past has worn down players in the past he's a tough coach. And a lot of people love that. They love that about him. He's tough on his players. But I just think maybe he's starting to grind a little bit on these players in New York, and they're just not responding. They were the way they were that first year. And I almost just wonder if this is just going to be, is that 1 year the Knicks were good and then they just kind of fell back down into the Eastern Conference. I hope it doesn't happen completely, but that right now I am buying that they're a one-hit wonder, unfortunately. The last one we have here. So, Jarrett, are you buying or selling that after he breaks this record, Curry should be considered the greatest shooter ever?
Well, I just have to tell you, I bought this years ago. Like my stocks in this is looking pretty good right now. I could sell this tomorrow, and I'll be living pretty good for the rest of my life. I thought Curry by the time of probably after his first championship, indisputably greatest shooter of all time, without a doubt. I mean, he literally revolutionized, unfortunately, in terms of my love for the game, unfortunately revolutionized how this game is playing, where he basically eliminated any 7-footer that can't shoot, which I think is, in my personal opinion, to the detriment of the balance of the game. But regardless, he's changed how the game is played completely. And that's one man that did it. And that's definitely something to say. I don't know how anyone could argue against Curry being the greatest shooter of all time. And if you are, pull your head out of your butt.
Yeah. I'm buying this all the way. Curry's done things beyond the three-point line that were just completely unimaginable before he ever came into the league. And he's done it with pretty much a regularity to it. I mean, I was curious when he was, 10 3-pointers away from breaking the record. I looked it up. And for so many people, that is such, 10 3-pointers in a game. No one could ever do that. And I looked it up. He's done it 21 times in his career. So it was very possible he could have broke it the other last night. But which, by the way, is an NBA record in itself, 21 times that he's scored 10 threes in a game. But, this record is just going to justify what in my mind should already be considered a fact. And I didn't buy in as early as you did. I was still in the, let's wait, let's see if he continues it. But Curry, without a doubt, best shooter that's ever taken the court in the NBA game, without a doubt. So
I definitely have to say this Curry 3-point record watch, it's definitely a lot of fun right now because Curry's highly motivated to break it. But at the same time, you see his opponents are also highly motivated to put, like you saw what Matisse Thybulle did.
Philly did not want him to
down.
Did not want them to even have a chance to break it in Philly.
Yeah, no. So it's fun for both sides if you're not a Warriors fan, because I kind of want to see Curry break it, but at the same time, I'm all for watching him struggle to get
it's going to be broken. It's just about which team is going to give it up. And I think his brother Seth being on the 76ers with a little bit extra motivation. He's like, hey, do not let my brother break this record on me in front. I'm sure their parents were in attendance. And just do not let him break it on me. But they were able to push
to the driveway.
Yeah, no, for real. Those guys have been going at each other for as long as you could possibly imagine. But kind of move on here to our last segment, our favorite segment here on the Tee 'em Up podcast, and that's Tee 'em Up. So, Jarrett, who deserves your technical foul this week?
I'm giving a technical foul to Solomon Hill. He went
Okay.
down with an injury this past week, and Buddy Hield, his former teammate, just kind of reached out and was like, "Hey, like, speedy recovery, man. Like, thinking about you. Like, I hope all goes well." And then Solomon Hill basically claps back and is like, "Appreciate it, but I hope all is well with you. You're still in a Kings jersey, man." And
Ooh.
I mean that's a pretty good burn. I mean, that's like Sacramento Kings social media level good.
Ooh.
But you didn't have to do your guy like that. I mean, come on. We're all aware how bad the Kings are. You
Yeah.
don't have to say it like that. You don't have to put the man on blast after he reached out. So I got to tee up Solomon Hill for that. But it was definitely some entertainment for me this week. That's
Free Buddy Hield, man.
definitely.
That's a good one.
The
Yeah,
Lakers could have done it, but they traded for Russell Westbrook.
Yeah. So I didn't have my team up until last night, and I was fortunate enough that a game last night was able to give me a pretty good one. I think I'm teeing up Kentavious Caldwell Pope, the Washington Wizards, and their game last night, KCP, he went for what looked like he was about to be a poster dunk, a really emphatic slam, and as the camera kind of panned out a little bit, he slammed the ball into the rubber side of the backboard. He missed the rim, but not just missed a dunk. We see missed dunks. That happens. It's it's a game, but he just hit the side of the backboard. And he had it cocked back. He was slamming it, man. But KCP, you're a pro, man. Like, you're a champion. Like, I don't know what happened on this play. I don't know, things he might have just not have been able to look up. He might have just tried to think I don't know what happened. I can't even try to explain it. But this was not a good look. This was not a good look at all. And I'm sure he'll be making an appearance on Shaqtin' a Fool too.
For
But
sure.
sorry, KCP, man, but I gotta tee you up for this one. This was an interesting look. And if you haven't had a chance, definitely check it out. It's all over social media. But KCP, former NBA champion, and now just slams it down on the side of the backboard. That was
I don't think that's ever happened, or at least I haven't seen it.
not that I've seen it. It almost looked like he was going for like a crazy dunk contest, like hit it off the side, and then, but no, he just straight up slammed it right into the side of the backboard. It was an interesting one, but that's all we have for you guys this week. So we want to thank you all for joining us on the Tee 'em Up podcast. Be sure to check us out on @TeeEmUp on all the social media platforms. So we'll be back next week with another episode. We continue to get deeper and deeper, and we're getting closer to those highly anticipated Christmas NBA games. So thank you guys so much, and have a great day. And thanks for listening.
Make sure to share us with all your family and friends.